So we made it over to the Electrify America, and all 4 spots are in fact full. There's a lightning waiting, so there's some queuing going on. This number 1, I believe it is, if there's a label on it somewhere. I don't actually see a label. Or actually number 4, because they have their label only here. That is so small. We're plugged in. Let's see how fast that turns green. It's probably about 7 seconds typically. There we go, already green. Got 1, 2, 3, 4 prefabricated supercharger units. But we are at the Dillon, South Carolina 40 stall Tesla supercharger. This is the largest supercharging installation east of Texas. What's up, guys? It's Brandon Flash. Today you're joining me with my 2023 Tesla Model Y all-wheel drive with the 4680 battery pack that Tesla has now killed. If you haven't already, check out that video. But today we're heading from South Park, Charlotte area, and we're going to be doing a giant road trip loop. And we're actually heading to the largest Tesla supercharger installation with 40 stalls east of Texas in Dillon, South Carolina. But that's just one of the quite a few stops we're going to be making along the way at different superchargers and probably some other chargers along the way. So let's hop in. It's lightly raining out with the Hurricane Ophelia, I think is the name of it, passing through the Carolinas, but we should be able to dodge the storm for the most part, and it's just a light rain here in Charlotte. So let's hop in the car. I'll show you our plan. But real quick, like I said, 2023 Tesla Model Y, Steck Dyno Prism, paint protection film, EV base, wheel covers, all of that's linked down below. We've got a carbon fiber spoiler, abstract ocean emblem, and like I said, this is the base model, not the long range all-wheel drive. And yeah, it's the 4680 battery pack. Doesn't charge that well, but we're gonna be stopping at so many superchargers, it doesn't really matter. So we'll hop in here. Dry off my phone. So we've got a light rain. We're starting here in Charlotte. We're gonna be heading down to Columbia. Might make a quick appearance. There's a Soda City Market Drive Electric Week event happening today. I don't know exactly where it is. I think it's in downtown Columbia, which is not great. We'll see, not 100% decided on that. We're then gonna go to the Electrify America right near that supercharger, just because I want to check it out. That's a notoriously bad bad Electrify America. There's another one over here. We'll head east. This one's at Buc-ee's, this new Florence, North Williston Road. And then Dillon, South Carolina. That's the one that's the biggest one east of Texas, 40 stalls. And there's 2 more on the way back. And we'll probably actually go to Gastonia. So add in Gastonia. It'll be at the very end, right before I go home-ish. So we'll let that calculate. Let's go ahead and reset the trip here. Just have this since Myrtle trip, since I did a Myrtle Beach trip about 2 weekends ago. I'll just name this Dillon Loop, since that's the name of the big supercharger that we're going to. And because I'm not feeling all that creative this morning at 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning. So we'll reset that. And we're actually going to cross 10,000 miles on this road trip. So nice and easy. We'll be back home tonight. Yeah, you can see kind of just a big counterclockwise loop, nothing too crazy, and it should be a pretty uneventful day. Hopefully the rain subsides as it's supposed to based on the forecast, but we'll see. But let's hit the road because it's we're burning daylight. The days are definitely getting shorter. Should be back around 6 o'clock, but realistically that'll probably be closer to like 7 o'clock with stopping for filming and things like that. We're charged to 80%, or at least we were charged to 80%. Burned up a little bit of power, and it's saying we'll arrive to the Columbia supercharger with 33%, but since I don't need to be conservative, I'll probably use some of that. We'll probably roll in, I don't know, mid-20s or so, and also depends a bit on the rain. We'll see. And there are no along here other than the Fort Mill. That one I've been to, so we're just going to ones that I haven't been to before because I play a silly game, going to as many unique superchargers as possible. And then I do have Teslax connected to a CAN server hooked up down here, so you can see the battery is a bit warm. I charged it overnight, but we'll kind of see how things go over the day. And it's still showing 67.5 battery full kilowatt hour, and we have a 3 kilowatt hour buffer. And yeah, it looks like we are not heating the battery right now, and the actual state of charge is 80.4%, with a pack voltage about 371 volts. So we'll kind of keep an eye on that throughout the day. I did want to mention quick that my Tesla referral link is down below if you're in the market, if you find these videos helpful for your buying decision. And also thanks to you guys for using my referral code. All of the supercharging today will be at no cost to me. So again, thank you guys for using my referral, and I'm glad you guys find these videos helpful in your buying decisions. So we're only about 7 minutes away, 4 miles, and now we're heating up the battery very slightly. You can see the coolant or battery coolant temp is rising, which means that the target temperature is rising, which you can also see there. Battery heat target 61 degrees Celsius. So it's heating up the battery. It's not going to do a whole lot in 6 minutes, but it's certainly trying. So surprised it didn't come on earlier, but I guess it didn't care that much. I don't know. Have made it to the Columbia Harbiston Boulevard Supercharger. We're gonna go to Electrify America next, but I need to find a restroom, but let's get plugged in quick. We're right next to a substation, which is a kind of cool location for a supercharger. Hopefully the wind isn't too terrible here for you guys. Let's see if this wants to work. Sometimes it can be a little finicky. There we go. Ulta Beauty, there's a Chick-fil-A there, but there's like a fence. I don't know if you can really actually get there. Firestone, McDonald's, really not the greatest location for a supercharger, actually. There's really not much to do around here unless you're going to like Ulta or something, but this is a 16 stall version 3. Yeah, it does the job. Well, ended up going to the Circle K back there to use the restroom. McDonald's are always hit or miss whether they care if you use the restroom as a non-customer or not. So decided to just walk a little bit further to the Circle K. But in my opinion, this supercharger fails at what I consider to be the most basic requirements of trash can and restrooms that are available, not necessarily 24/7, but at least long hours, like, I don't know, I'd say 5 a.m. to 11 p.m., something like that. Ideally 24 hours, but that's not always possible. So Ulta, DSW, Staples, Home Goods, none of those are open 24/7 or even that long of hours. So while this is a decent supercharger location, it's a pretty bad, like, actually charging location. But here you can see 16 stall version 3. You got the 4 cabinets over there. One's tucked behind. And we charged up more than enough. We didn't really need to charge here. Cell phone tower. We've got another sort of comms pole there. And we have a substation back here, which is actually kind of cool. And there's no trash cans or anything here, which is just, it drives me nuts. So, cool to see the substation. Don't actually see the transformer for this site, but could be anywhere. Might be over here potentially. Not entirely sure, but it's got to be somewhere around here. Let's just look at the cabinets. These are likely 387 kVA version. Yep, 387 kVA. These are made in June of 2022, and there are 4 of them. So another typical version 3 supercharger. Let's see what we're charged up to already. Already up to 54%. And we'll go to the Electrify America on our way out just to stop by, see how it's looking, if it's busy or not. And then I'm going to skip going to the Soda City Drive Electric thing because it ends at 1, and by the time we get there, it'll probably be like 12:30. So we'll head to Columbia Town Center Place next, and then we'll do a little bit of drive to Buc-ee's and then Dillon. So time to hit the road here shortly. We are unplugged at 56%, and let's just look at the price here. Oh crap, I killed the navigation route, which is really annoying. So there we have it, 31 cents a kilowatt hour. And I'm going to have to re-enter my route. I wish Tesla would make it a little harder to kill your route if you have multiple stops. It's way too easy right now. And there we have battery temperatures, so 56 degrees or 56.5 max brick temp. And it is somewhat passively cooling, so it's the cool target is lower than the current temperature, but the battery temperature is lower than that, so it is pumping coolant into the battery. And time to head to Electrify America. According to the Electrify America app, the entire station is full, so should be interesting to see if there's a queue or not, and how things are going there. It looks like some of the stations are derated. And just to give you an idea of how close that Electrify America is, there's the Walmart. We literally just pulled out of the kind of shopping area parking lot of the Supercharger, and we're going to be going across the parking lot here. It's on the far side. And I've been to this Electrify America quite a few times, and overall it's generally not great in my experience, especially at night. Yeah, just not the best area, and then the charging itself is not great either. So we made it over to the Electrify America, and all 4 spots are in fact full. There's a Lightning waiting, so there's some queuing going on. There's a bunch of construction going on here in the Walmart parking lot. Not sure what they're doing exactly. Looks like we've got a Bolt doing Bolt things, charging up quite high. Polestar 2 e-tron is charging pretty full, and we have a Q4 e-tron also charging pretty full. And these are the old Signets, so it's probably power restricting would be my guess. 88%, 78%. So overall, just not great. And meanwhile, the Supercharger had 13 stalls open. So that just shows you kind of the contrast there. Well, ended up talking to the Lightning owner. This is actually one of 2 F-150 Lightnings that they have. They also have a Pro, and they actually use it for horseshoeing, have a full custom rig on the back, and for them having the standard bed across the different F-150 models. Yeah. There's also a Taycan waiting now, so it kind of shows the experience here. But for them, having the standard bed across the different F-150 models, the Lightning and the gas ones, was actually a make or break for them. Whereas they originally wanted the Silverado, but that uses a different bed, so they couldn't have used some of the existing accessories and things that they already had. Let's just see here. This e-tron is now at 96%. It's been here for 47 minutes. Lightning's getting 125 kilowatts. It was at 150 a moment ago, so that's totally normal. Does its brief peak thing. Polestar, been here for 28 minutes, 57 kilowatt. Also seems normal. Bolt, doing Bolt things, been here for 70 minutes, getting 27 kilowatts. And I certainly would not want to be that Taycan right now, waiting in my $100,000+ car for all these cars to finish. I would be pretty annoyed, frankly. But time to hit the road again. Good to stop by here and kind of see what it's like here. Oh, looks like the e-tron owner is returning, so the Taycan will be able to charge here in just a moment. But let's get over to the other Columbia, Electrify America. Also worth mentioning, the F-150 Lightning owner mentioned that his truck had a cell fail in it, or maybe a module, didn't give a ton of details, but it spent 55 days at the dealership for that module to be replaced. It's actually a Lyric pulling in right now. But overall, he was quite happy with it. Both of them are standard range, doesn't find it to be a problem at all. He's actually on a road trip in the one that he's in currently. But overall, really loves it. He said he went from spending $250 a week in gas between his 2 F-150s previously, or his 2 trucks previously, to now having $100 extra a month with the 2 F-150 Lightnings, and has some solar as well. We've arrived at the Columbia, South Carolina Town Center Place Supercharger. We're at 46%, so definitely don't need to charge per se. This one looks like 34 cents a kilowatt hour. We've got some photos. Let's just see what's around here. I don't think there's really a whole lot. Looks like we're at kind of a mall kind of thing, but not a whole lot directly adjacent. Let's see. So I did add in another Electrify America in Florence, South Carolina, just to see how it's going. So it looks like we could go there, make it with 20%, because let's see how many miles it is. Oh, well, that's calculating. I did see some interesting things at this site. I'll let that do its thing. But let's get plugged in. So you'll see here, this is kind of the center spine style supercharger. I don't know a better way to describe it, but basically you have these all in one line. But what that means is that you actually have to use the correct one, because in theory you could use this one, but then they would stop that person from using it. So they have these signs that not only label the kilowatt, but also tell you which side to use it from. So pretty good there. And something I've never seen at a supercharger before, actually, is that this site has future proofing. So they have conduits run over here. So they have four 4-inch conduits placed for future stalls, I suppose. And they're spaced very similar to these. You can see one and then two closer, one. So one, two closer, one, which is very interesting. And then we'll go over here to the cabinet area. My AC is dumping a lot of water, unless it was just like trapped a little bit. But over here, we have all the conduits for where a future cabinet would be. And this, to me, is super odd. I've never seen Tesla do this before, but you can see that you have the DC bus conduits and you have the AC incoming conduits. So these are your AC incoming. I believe those are the DC bus conduits, and then these are probably for the 4 posts. I'm not 100% sure which ones are which, but that's my suspicion. But very interesting, because normally Tesla will just do their build out, and then that's that. They'll maybe do some upgrades later on to V4, but Tesla doesn't actually have a precedent of upgrading existing sites to be the newer tech. For example, all the version 2 superchargers are just version 2. They don't upgrade them. But here we are, 65 miles to the Electrify America. We'll just charge here for a moment. I'm going to take some photos of this interesting install. Let's just look at the electrical quick. So here we have a 1500 kVA transformer, and then we have a 2000 amp cabinet. And typical for Tesla at one of these sites is actually to have a 1600 amp cabinet for a 3 cabinet site. So they clearly spec this site for 4 cabinets, but only installed 3, which is maybe a requirement for the site host, who knows. Also, just notice there's a restroom literally right there, that's actually excellent. I did not notice that until just now. But gonna grab some photos, make a tweet, and then we'll get back on the road. We are at the Columbia, South Carolina Town Center Place Tesla Supercharger version 3, and we've got some interesting things going on here, actually. We have future proofing that I have never seen Tesla do before. So here you can see that we have 4 conduits just stubbed up, but no superchargers on them. This site's been open for coming up on a year here pretty soon. We have 12 stalls here. This is kind of the center spine style installation with them all back in, just all along one row. But those conduits, they're coming over here. Nothing too crazy to see here. They just have the typical, please use other side, 250 kilowatt little posts. But over here, we have the 3 cabinets for the 12 stalls that are installed currently. And then we have the stubbed up conduits for another cabinet that's not installed. It's definitely not like Tesla to do that. They don't really ever do that. Normally they would just add another site rather than future-proof with the intention of installing additional stalls. However, possibly they're doing that with the intent of doing that later on, maybe with version 4, or maybe the site host only allowed 12 initially, but will allow 16 in the future. But they also size their distribution cabinet accordingly for 4 cabinets, and they size their utility service accordingly for 4 cabinets with a 1500 kVA transformer. So a pretty interesting installation, kind of a weird location, not that close to an interstate, but it is at a mall-ish. So we're going to get back on the road and head towards I-95. Unplugged at 59%, projecting 33% arrival. We're going to be taking I-20 to Florence. That's to an Electrify America that we'll just stop by before we head to the Florence Buc-ee Supercharger, just a little bit out of the way, not a big deal, but 33% plenty there. I think it's about 66 miles. And then we'll be along the I-95 corridor, and let's just keep going. We crossed over 10,000 miles without even realizing it. Oops. But there we have it, over 3,000 kilowatt hour. And so far, efficiency today has been surprisingly good, 282 watt hour per mile. And I've been driving pretty typically, not going super fast, but also not going that slow either. So pretty impressed with 282 watt hour per mile, though it is very mild outside, 71 degrees, limited sun, so very low thermal load. So it kind of makes sense. Well, decided to add a stop at the OG Florence, South Carolina Supercharger. It's actually an 18 stall version 2 Supercharger that opened 6 years ago. So I can only imagine the conversations that Tesla had to have 6 years ago to build an 18 stall charger. That was pretty much unheard of outside of California at that point. So we're just gonna swing by. It's version 2, I don't need to charge. We're at 24% about to pull in, but it's like half a mile, basically next door to the Electrify America that we're stopping at. So it just made sense to stop there kind of as a point of comparison. But it's at this Magnolia Mall, I think it's called. I've stopped here before. If you've watched some of my old videos, you've seen me stop here in my old Model S. It's actually a pretty decent stop. It's right by the food court at this mall. There's an IHOP. I've stopped here on Thanksgiving and the IHOP was open, if I remember correctly. My memory may be failing me. That was a long time ago, and I've been to a lot of Superchargers. So we'll just swing by, see how it is. Let's see. So there you can see 2 stalls are in use currently. This is 150 kilowatt version 2. So it's one of the newer-ish version 2s. But you can kind of see some pictures there. I mean, it's a good stop. It's just version 2, and I mean, actually pretty convenient off of I-95 and I-20. But that's the Buc-ee stop. And then just for comparison, there's the Electrify America at Sam's Club right next door. So we're going to pull in there and I'll show you. Well, we're at the Florence, South Carolina OG Supercharger. Let's see what we rolled in with. 24%, so we'll plug in here for just a moment, and I actually will show you the speed. Just make sure everything's working 100% given the age of the site. Watch it ramp up here. I think we should max it out at 24%. I would expect about 140 kilowatts because these units are 400 amp limited. So the voltage being a bit lower on this pack means that you won't get a full 150 kilowatts, but should get still pretty strong. And it's pretty typical for those version 2s to ramp a little bit slower and then ramp all the way up. So there we have it, 141 kilowatts in a few seconds. Can see down here 378 amps, which makes sense. And then that's to the battery, so there's some auxiliary loads as well. So exactly what I would expect. 140 kilowatts is what's actually going into the vehicle shown here, whereas down here 132 kilowatts is what's going into the battery. So working perfectly at a 6-year-old site. And then we've got this new displace at 36 cents per kilowatt hour. And let me just give you a quick tour here. It's weird, we have a Polestar just sitting here for some reason. This unit looks like it's been hit. These cables are, they've seen better days, that's for sure. Doesn't look like a rental, surprisingly. Go ahead and put that back, but looks like that could use some love. We'll see if that stays. I don't think it will, but Yeah, that one fell again. So it is what it is. These parking lines are super trippy on the backup camera as you're trying to back in, but that's fine. Could probably use some restriping. And here we have the version 2 cabinet. So we've got 6 of the cabinets over here. And these are actually a retrofit that they did, these little conduits coming out, because they have the new gateway. That thing sounds like it has a flat tire. So over here we have the gateway. If you've watched some of my previous videos, you know that these have a wild voltage range. So 85 to 277 volts input. And to my knowledge, this is just kind of a retrofit for communications on these. That looks sketchy for cellular, but seems fine. So I don't know, seems fine to me. 3 more cabinets over here. So again, we have 9 cabinets for 18 stalls. You can see 135 kilowatts of these were retrofitted to be 150 kilowatts at one point. Then over here we have the utility transformer. And we have 1500 kVA, which again makes sense for the size of a site. So everything is working exactly as I would expect, even 6 years later. And we've already charged up to 37% in the couple minutes while I was filming and taking some pictures, or 38% there, still at 170 kilowatts. So we're gonna unplug. We're gonna head to Electrify America. It's pretty cool out, actually. Those definitely could use some love. Electrify America is a whopping 1.1 miles away, a little bit closer as the way crow flies, but let's head over there, see how that's looking. Well, we've arrived to the Electrify America here in Florence, South Carolina. This is a Signet site, 4 stalls. This number 1, I believe it is, if there's a label on it somewhere. I don't actually see a label. Or actually number 4, because they have their label only here. That is so small. And if I'm struggling to find it, I can only imagine what other people are struggling with. Appears to be working, shows as 150 kilowatt available on the app. Got an EV6 over here charging. It's like 137 kilowatts at that percentage, so working. 83, that's working. And this one is unavailable. So 1 of 4 down, 2 of 4 in use. Not bad. Well, ended up running into a viewer there with the EV6. They reported that Signet Surge is still happening, which I thought they had fixed Signet Surge, but apparently that's not the case. So anyway, we are off to the Buc-ee stop next. I'm going to grab some food there. We have, let's see how many miles. Looks like 14 minutes, 11 miles, and then we've got the Dillon, South Carolina one just past that, and then we'll be starting kind of our drive home. But again, there we have Electrify America, 4 stalls, 1 down, 2 in use. But looks like they're clearing out right now, and then it'll be an empty site. So things come in waves as they always do. And let's get to Florence at Buc-ee's. We have made it to Buc-ee's, Dave Connor's favorite place, Florence, South Carolina. Buc-ee's with a 16 stall version 3 supercharger. Why it's doing that routing, that's weird. But we have 9 stalls available. Let's take a look here. Interesting, looks like we've got some flexible conduits going into the stalls. We're plugged in. Let's see how fast that turns green. It's probably about 7 seconds typically. There we go, already green. Got 1, 2, 3, 4 prefabricated supercharger units. We have our utility transformer over here. Let's see how big it is. Definitely watching my step here because this is also the dog park, so never know what might be in the grass. Let's see, it looks like 1875 kVA. That's an interesting size. I don't think I've ever seen a size or a transformer that size. PD Electric Co-op is the utility here. So we have the PSUs over here. So 1 PSU, 2 PSU, 3 PSU, 4 PSU. And PSU stands for prefabricated supercharger unit. If you haven't already, I have a whole deep dive video talking about the architecture of these sites and kind of what makes these prefabricated units special, and also how all these different units tie together. So you can see that we have the buses between them. One of these is probably labeled Star Center, would be my guess. They may not be labeled. Let's see. Looks like this one's Star Center. This has the modem on it. So here we have Star Center. It's not labeled, but you can tell because it has the comms to it right there. Also has some additional conduits out of it. But there we are plugged in, and we have Buc-ee's in the background. So I'm actually probably going to move my car rather than sit here plugged in, because I'm going to charge at the Dillon Supercharger, because I'm actually going to do a whole video there because that's the largest supercharger east of Texas. So we'll unplug, park, go inside. I'm going to grab some food, some snacks, and then we'll get back on the road. Charged for 7 minutes, and it's giving me the 14 minutes remaining message to 80% limit. But I'm going to unplug, move my car over to one of those stalls over there, and then we'll go into Buc-ee's because I want to roll into Dillon. Well, I don't necessarily need to roll into Dillon low, but I want to be able to roll into one of these low so I can actually do a little bit of a charge curve recording in these lower temperatures. And then we'll kind of head home. I removed the Gastonia stop. We'll see what timing looks like because I want to get home at a reasonable time so I can actually post this video. And we can always go to Gastonia another time because it's very close by. So let's just move my car. And then actually let's just let it finish at 50%. Should be seconds here. So it's already at 50. It'll complete at 50. Give it a moment. Charging seems to be going pretty darn well today. So there we have it, 50% charge complete. So I'm going to move my car. Well, the Buc-ee's effect happened. Spent too much. Got some snacks for myself and for the future and for others. Now we'll hit the road to Dillon. Might eat my burrito here. I'll have to see how far Dillon is. I think it's like 15 minutes. Well, ate my Buc-ee's burrito, and we're headed to the Dillon 40 stall, which is the main point of this video. And I just noticed there's an F-150 Lightning up there, if this van moves. Right there. But there's no CCS charging here, so they can't charge here. So, 24 minutes to the Dillon 40 stall. Let's get to it. That is quite the rig. It's yet again quite interesting to see how late it's activating preconditioning. We're only 3 minutes out and it just activated preconditioning. And it looks like it's targeting 61 degrees Celsius and we're at 47 currently. So it's trying to heat up quite a bit in a very short period. Battery coolant temperature is coming up, so not quite sure what the strategy is there and why it does it so late if it actually wants the battery warm. Well, we've arrived at Dillon, South Carolina Supercharger. Again, this is 40 stalls, so 10 cabinets. I'm the only one here. 36 cents a kilowatt hour. Looks like it has pretty low demand currently. I think that's on a relative basis, a number of, or percentage of cabinets in use. But quick glance, we've got 2 transformers. We've got mostly PSUs aside from those 4 there, it seems. But let's get plugged in, and then I'm going to check that out a little bit, get the lay of the land, probably put the drone in the air, and then I'll probably actually shoot a dedicated video here. And we are off to not a good start. There is a dead front stuck in that charge handle, or in that pin. You can see on the left side there. So I'm going to move stalls. Move stalls and now charging. We're getting 120 something kilowatts, which is about expected for the state of charge. 130 looks normal to me. We're getting 360 something amps in the battery pack. I have my charge limit set to 80%, which should be fine. But again, I just had to swap stalls. Not the end of the world, that happens, but luckily we had 39 other stalls to use, and I wrapped the cable over the top there so that way others don't run into that issue. But let me get the lay of the land here, and then I'll give you guys a tour. Just want to give a quick site summary here for Rate Your Charge and for my road trip video, but I am doing a full deep dive video on just this site alone. But we are at the Dillon, South Carolina 40 stall Tesla Supercharger. This is the largest supercharging installation east of Texas. We're on the I-95 corridor. I-95 is right over there, but we're going to start with the incoming grid connection. So here we have 2 brand new poles. So we're dipping off the 13.2 kV primary line overhead. We have these 2 dip poles. Those are brand new. 1 going to each of these 1500 kVA transformers. And we have 10 supercharger cabinets. So we have 5 going to each of these. So in some ways, this is actually 2 separate 20 stall supercharger installations. So we have cabinet 6 here, or disconnect number 6. And this is the only non-prefabricated unit here. So that's just a standalone cabinet, but with their PSU style disconnect system. And then we have 4 pull-in stalls here. This is the cabinet 6. So that's also your ADA stall, van accessible as it's marked here. And then you also have your sidewalk access, Starbucks, Taco Bell. We've got Cookout, Popeyes, and Zaxby's. So quite a few different food options here. None of them are great in my opinion, but better than nothing. And then we have tons of stalls down this way. So we have 4 cabinets and 16 stalls on this side. And we have 5 cabinets and 20 stalls on this side. So we have 2 Star Center site controller cabinets, which will go down here. And again, these are the prefabricated supercharger units. So you have cabinet and 4 posts all come together, disconnect mounted to it. And here's cabinet number 8, which is one of the site controllers. So you can see site master controller, and you can also see it has the cellular modem on it. So that's another way you can tell that this is the Star Center cabinet, which controls the DC bus. And then over here, we have supercharger number 2, which is Star Center for the other DC bus, because they can link up to 7 cabinets. So a site of this size actually gets split, and it makes sense to just split it in half. What's interesting is that the Star Center and the site master controller actually split, which is very interesting. I don't think I've seen that before, actually. So here you can see the master controller, and then you also have the cellular modem for this set of the installation, but that one is the Star Center. So either these are mislabeled or they've split the site controller and the Star Center units, which is interesting. There we have a quick look at the Dillon, South Carolina 40 stall, largest supercharger east of Texas installation. Well, I shot a deep dive video that will be out before this. So if you're watching this video and you haven't checked that out already, definitely check it out after you finish watching this, or go watch it and come back, up to you. But I did a full deep dive on this Dillon supercharger, and we're charged up to 100%, or at least we were charged up to 100%, dropped down to 99. But let me show you the rest of the route, and then we're heading home at this point. So 99%, as I mentioned, we're going to Laurinburg, Rockingham, just going to be brief, plug and go. And then we're headed back to Charlotte. So not too far away, about 2.5 hours, but I think we're gonna make pretty good time. I've got this video exporting here, so that way you can upload while I drive. And let's get to it. Arrived in Laurinburg, North Carolina. We're at 85% state of charge. Definitely don't need to charge here, but we're going to plug in here just for a moment. I actually have this video uploading here. Get plugged in. May as well get a little bit of juice while we're here. Just got asked for money from a homeless person, so definitely be on the lookout if you're charging here. 1000 kVA transformer. Let's see, the utility is here. Looks like City of Laurinburg, Next Grid. Okay, haven't heard of them, but alrighty then. Southeastern Transformer is the company that produced it. And we have a 12 stall version 3 supercharger. We have 2 PSUs. So we have this one and that one there. And they're installed almost at parking lot grade, but not quite. They're raised very slightly. They're effectively using the PSU as the curb. And then this is Star Center. This has the site controller. You can actually see that on this label here. So DC bus, I guess they spelled bus with 2 S's. Interesting. But DC bus combiner cabinet, aka Star Center. We got a Model Y pulling in. And then over here, we actually have a non-PSU cabinet, but with the integrated or kind of attached piggyback disconnect system just on the side. And then we have 3 stalls here. And then trash cans, we've got restaurant, Planet Fitness. So I guess if you're a Tesla Nomad and you use Planet Fitness for showers, that's convenient. But if you've been following me on Twitter for a while, or X, I guess as it's now called, still haven't gotten used to that, you'll recognize this Starbucks over here because there's actually a Tritium RT50 over here, just a single unit. And I went on a trip over Memorial Day weekend. I didn't post a video about it, but it was one of the last trips I did in the Rivian. It was just from Charlotte to Wilmington, North Carolina. That's really a trip that doesn't require charging, so I didn't make a video. But we're gonna walk over there, see how it's looking. But I was unable to charge there, but I didn't need to charge there. It just so happens that I stopped at this Starbucks to use the restroom and get snacks on the way there. And there happened to be a charger. I literally didn't plan it that way, which I know for me is a little surprising, but I legitimately did not plan on stopping somewhere that had a charger. It just happened to be there. So when I saw that this supercharger opened basically across the parking lot, I was quite happy with that because it's clearly a convenient location if it's somewhere that I stopped already naturally without even thinking about charging. And with the Model Y that I have now, I probably would want to stop on my way to Wilmington. Otherwise, it would be a pretty tight trip. It's about 200 miles, mostly 70 miles per hour. So that's probably pushing the range a little bit. So you can see the pole mounted transformer serving that 50 kilowatt there. Probably some other stuff as well, realistically. But let's see how it's looking. It has some pretty bold signs to put the price on the signs. I don't know why you would ever do that, but interesting. It's a Siemens rebranded Tritium RT50. This Pater credit card terminal has definitely seen better days. It looks like it's operated by the city of Laurinburg. I must say, it is very bold to put a price on a sign like that rather than put it somewhere digital. And then you can see data label there. So this unit was built 10 of 2021. I think it's maybe working. I don't see anything necessarily indicating that's not. A checked plug share, it has a 6.6 plug share score. And it seems like it's on FreeVen currently based on what I could see. Looks like they actually do have a camera up there as well, which is probably smart. But let's go back to the car. Like I said, we don't really need to charge here, so we're just going to continue on, and we'll probably already be at like 92, 93% or something by the time we get back over there. Quick note before we unplug and take off. So they have a van accessible stall, and they did actually put the additional handle like they sometimes do here. So it makes it a little easier and also lowers the reach height because this is likely over the ADA height. So let's get unplugged, see what we're at. Already up to 92%, which I slightly suspected. This one's 35 cents a kilowatt hour. But again, thanks to you guys using my referral, all of my supercharging for a decent while is going to be free. There we have it. So we'll unplug, get back on the road. And quick efficiency update. So we're at 309 watt hour per mile on this loop so far today. Crossed over 250 miles driven. Made it to Rockingham, North Carolina. This is, I think, going to be our last charging stop of the trip. But it says we'll arrive with 45% after 71 miles, so we don't really need to charge here again, but we're going to anyway. I need to get this video posted for you guys, the deep dive of the Dillon Supercharger. Hopefully you've already watched that at this point. Get plugged in. That Supercharger post has seen better days. We're plugged in. This is a more typical Supercharger installation of older style version 3, I'd say. This is interesting. Looks like we've got a 1430, not a 1450. You can tell by the L there rather than the vertical. So maybe they have food trucks or something that come here sometimes. I don't entirely know. Weird. But I guess if you had a Rivian, you could park here with a trailer and use that Supercharger. I don't know, just thinking creatively here. But anyway, we have 1000 kVA transformer. Looks like this is Duke Energy Progress again, not surprising. We have 3 version 3 cabinets. We have a 1600 amp distribution cabinet, which going back to the site in Columbia that had 3 cabinets but had the future proofing, that had a 2000 amp cabinet. So you can see here the typical is 1600 amps for a 12 stall. We also have 2 weird stalls over here. But again, if you have like a Rivian or a non-Tesla in the future here, assuming this has Magic Dock or with an adapter or whatever, you could come over here and not block as many stalls. You can also see this is Star Center DC bus combiner cabinet. And we have some trash cans here on the equipment pad, which is actually not a bad spot for them. Looks like there's no trash bags in them though, so I don't know who's maintaining those. We've got a Belk, we've got Ross, I don't know what Beals is. Rose's Express, I don't know what some of these places are, sorry. Looks like we've got a Firehouse sub, so pretty decent spot. These these posts have maybe seen better days. Could use a little bit of love. They're slightly falling apart, unfortunately. But we're charging. That's what matters. And it's a good spot. Also, it is wild to see that the temperature heat target is 65 degrees Celsius. And it's currently pumping in 60C coolant to heat up the battery from 51C. That is just wild and shows you how important having a warm battery is, especially at higher state of charge, because we're at 86% right now, pumping in 45 kilowatts, which isn't great, but we're getting power. So gonna get this video live and then we'll get back on the road and head home, 70 miles to home. Well, video just got posted. We're at 100%, and let me just show you here quick. So 100%, we'll tap that, or tap there, and still charges to 279 miles, just like on day one, which is the rated range of this vehicle. So we'll switch that back, unplug, and then we'll go home, and I'll give you guys a recap once we get home and show you all the efficiency, things like that. But let's get to it because it's starting to get dark. Looks like sunset is at 7:14 and it is 6:43, so we don't have a ton of time before sunset. And I'd prefer to drive during the day when I can. Well, we made it home 342 miles later, 104 kilowatt hour used, 303 watt hour per mile, which is actually pretty decent efficiency. We crossed over 10,000 miles on the odometer. I've had this car just shy of 3 months, a couple days short. Got it June 29th. It is now September 23rd, so about a week short of 3 months. So we went from Charlotte all the way down to Columbia, a little bit west, and then we went over, slight detour here for that version 2 and the Electrify America. Then we hopped on I-95, came up. That's the Dillon, the 40 stall, which I actually realize is also on this route here, which can take you to Myrtle Beach. So there is a little bit more usefulness there. Then we stopped in Laurinburg, Rockingham, and back to South Park, Charlotte area. So overall, pretty happy with the efficiency. And there you can see some of the stats from Teslafy. So 342.38 miles driven, about 75% efficiency. And that kilowatt hour used matches what we have here as well. So 104, 103.99. So very close. Used very little for sleeping because we were basically just driving the entire time. 7 supercharges, 103.39 kilowatt hour used, or added, I mean. 2 hours of charging, which makes sense. We were not optimizing at all. And we used 162% of the battery. So makes sense. There's some of those charging stops and how long they were. But overall, very easy trip. Autopilot is just awesome. I actually turned off FSD beta for this trip. I just find FSD beta is a little much on the interstate. I prefer just basic autopilot with Navigate on autopilot, which I guess isn't basic autopilot, it's more enhanced autopilot, but you get the point. It's not the full self-driving beta that does all the lane changes and everything without confirmations. I just leave it on Navigate on autopilot, and that does everything I need. For most people, basic autopilot or enhanced autopilot is plenty, especially on the interstate, without being kind of unpredictable or kind of finicky. But anyway, if you guys enjoyed this video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you on the next one.